'Tis the season of delays, ladies and gentlemen. 2020 is going to be a crazy year when it comes to video game releases, but already we are starting to see a number of high-profile games being pushed back. In my last video, I talked about Square Enix and how they delayed Final Fantasy VII Remake from March to April 10th, 2020, so about a month delay. And furthermore, Crystal Dynamics has delayed their Avengers game from May 2020 to September 4th, 2020. That marks about a 4 months delay, and both developers cited the same reason. They just needed more time to polish the game to ensure that it was in the best state possible when people get their hands on it. And now, another huge game, the biggest game of 2020, I would say my most anticipated, has been delayed as well. I'm referring, of course, to Cyberpunk 2077. The following information was relayed directly by CD Projekt Red via their official Twitter page and their various social media outlets. So the tweet in question reads as follows: "We have important news regarding Cyberpunk 2077's release date we'd like to share with you today. Clicking on the attached image will take you to the following statement provided by Marcin Iwinski, the co-founder of CD Projekt Red, and Adam Badowski, head of the studio. And the message they provided reads as follows: "We have important news regarding Cyberpunk 2077's release date we'd like to share with you today. Cyberpunk 2077 won't make the April release window, and we're moving the launch date to September 17th, 2020. We are currently at a stage where the game is complete and playable, but there's still work to be done. Night City is massive, full of stories, content, and places to visit, but due to the sheer scale and complexity of it all, we need more time to finish playtesting, fixing, and polishing. We want Cyberpunk 2077 to be our crowning achievement for this generation, and postponing launch will give us the precious months we need to make the game perfect. Expect more regular updates on progress as we get closer to the new release date. We're really looking forward to seeing you in Night City. Thank you for your ongoing support, Marcin Iwinski and Adam Badowski." There's a part of me that isn't entirely surprised. It seemed a little weird that we were getting such little marketing for the game despite it being 3 months away as of right now. On one hand, I thought, okay, maybe CD Projekt Red thinks they don't really need to do a huge marketing push for this game, because this game's sort of been hyping itself through word of mouth, not only because CD Projekt Red is such a renowned video game developer, but also Cyberpunk 2077 is just such a hyped game that maybe it just didn't need a marketing push on the level that we see with many other games. But on the other hand, I thought, or maybe there's just a delay incoming. Maybe CD Projekt Red is beginning to realize that they actually cannot make that April 2020 release date. And from the looks of it, it would seem as though the latter was true. As for what my thoughts are, well, if you've watched my previous videos about delays, you'll know my stance on them. It is what it is. Sometimes it is necessary to ensure that a product, that a video game releases in the best state possible. The famous quote from Shigeru Miyamoto applies right here. A delayed game is eventually good, but a rushed game is forever bad. I certainly do believe CD Projekt Red when they talk about the sheer scale and complexity of this game. Witcher 3 on its own is a game that you can sink hundreds of hours into with tons of side quests and stories alongside an extensive main quest. I imagine that Cyberpunk 2077 will be on an even bigger scale, will even be more complex. It's hardly surprising that the amount of playtesting, fixing, and polishing required for this game is on an unprecedented level. And I say let them do all the playtesting, fixing, and polishing they need to ensure that when this game launches, it isn't a broken mess, it isn't something we'll be disappointed by. It is the full-fledged polished product that it needs to be. And if there is one game development company that I'm willing to support through delays, if there is one company that I can confidently say to them, take all the time you need, it is CD Projekt Red. They have proven themselves in the past, and they deserve, I say, the benefit of the doubt. They deserve, support through what I think is honest and genuine and good intentions. They really just want to make this the best game possible. They just need more time because they know the product isn't perfect. They know it's not going to be ready by April as badly as they want to get this game out there. And once again, keep in mind that these delays, they aren't just painful for fans. Developers also hate it when they have to delay something when they were confident that this was going to release this day, but it didn't pan out that way. And that's because shit just happens sometimes during a game's development. Game development is a complicated thing. Unforeseen circumstances happen all the time. My only hope is that CD Projekt Red is confident this time that September 2020 is the final release date for Cyberpunk 2077. I hope they won't pull a Witcher 3, which got delayed twice. Recall that at one point it was supposed to launch sometime in fall 2014, and then it was delayed to February 2015, and then from there was delayed from February to May 19th, 2015. And the reasons cited back then were similar. They talked about how the sheer size and complexity of The Witcher, key features of the title, have had a decisive impact on production. Now nearing the end of our work, we see many details that need to be corrected. When we release the most important game in our studio's history, we must be absolutely sure that we did everything we could to limit any bugs to a level that will allow you to enjoy the game thoroughly. I imagine that Cyberpunk 2077 is undergoing a similar phase at this point. The good news is that Cyberpunk 2077 as a game is, quote, complete and playable, which means that all the pieces are in place. It's just a matter of fine-tuning everything, of working out the kinks and bugs, of ensuring the best possible version of the game. It's all about quality assurance, and if there's one development studio we know absolutely care about quality before getting a game out there, it is CD Projekt Red. Now, at the same time, I do understand people who are upset. Something that a lot of people highlighted in my previous video discussing the Final Fantasy VII Remake delay, as well as the Avengers delay, is that there are people who plan out vacation days in tandem with a game's release date, and these delays sort of throw those plans completely out the window. I'm in the fortunate position of sort of being my own boss, being able to schedule things out on my own terms, but for a lot of other people, they don't get to choose their schedule. They have to set aside these days and let their bosses know beforehand, and these kinds of delays throw these plans just completely off kilter. So for those people, yeah, this kind of thing, when it happens, it sucks. I get that. But at the end of the day, I think what we all ultimately want is to play a version of Cyberpunk 2077 that isn't marred by these technical flaws that can ruin a game, as we've seen other AAA games ship with because they were rushed by the publisher. I should also highlight that this delay is going to spread out 2020's insane schedule of game releases more evenly. After that Final Fantasy VII Remake delay, the way this schedule was going to work is that on March 31st, we're going to get Persona 5 Royale. A week later, on April 3rd, Resident Evil 3 Remake was going to release. Then the week after that, Final Fantasy VII Remake was going to release on April 10th. And then a week after that, Cyberpunk 2077 was going to release on April 6th. So Persona 5 Royale, Resident Evil 3 Remake, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Cyberpunk 2077 back to back to back to back. That was just going to be insane. I didn't know how I was going to handle that, especially when you consider the length of games like Persona 5 Royale, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Cyberpunk 2077. Each game, no doubt, ones that you can sink dozens, if not hundreds of hours into. But now with Cyberpunk pushed to September, we can actually take a bit more time playing Persona 5, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Resident Evil 3 Remake. And with Resident Evil 3 Remake likely being one of those, dozen-hour-long games, that means we can take our time with the two big, RPGs of that time period. I know there were people who were looking forward to both Final Fantasy VII Remake and Cyberpunk 2077 in particular, and having those two go head-to-head was going to be a time issue for many, given the length of both of these games, and given the amount of money you'd have to spend just that month alone. But now with Cyberpunk 2077 pushed back, there's just more breathing room for us to be able to experience a lot of these other awesome games coming out within that month. So there's a relief there for my part, at least. Now, Cyberpunk 2077 being pushed to September also means that it's competing with Marvel's Avengers, which was delayed from May 15th to September 4th. So Cyberpunk is coming out about 2 weeks after Marvel's Avengers. So that's plenty of time to play Avengers and also to experience Cyberpunk. Though I'm assuming there's still plenty of unannounced games for September as well, so September might end up being a busy month. We'll see what happens throughout the year. It's still probably going to be an insane year, but at least I can play Final Fantasy VII Remake, a game that I've been looking forward to for so long, without having to worry about delving into Cyberpunk 2077 and having to balance those two juggernauts at the same time. But yeah, this is where we're at with Cyberpunk 2077, folks. It's been delayed a couple months, and generally people seem supportive towards CD Projekt Red from what I've seen. They all seem to understand that CD Projekt Red has good intentions with this, that they want to make the best game possible. If it needs more time, then oh well. You know, we've waited long enough as it is. We can wait a couple more months if it ultimately ensures the ultimate version of Cyberpunk 2077. But these are just one man's take on this whole situation. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on CD Projekt Red delaying Cyberpunk 2077 from April to September. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Yong Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Yong out.